So Cracker Barrel is in big trouble because they trusted a CEO who never understood what Cracker Barrel customers actually wanted. And now the investors and the firms themselves are questioning whether Cracker Barrel can survive another year under the same leadership. Now, the identity of Cracker Barrel was treated like a disposable toy, basically, instead of a community staple. Now, the people who kept Cracker Barrel alive are definitely watching the company pretend that the backlash came out of nowhere. So the pushback is happening because, simply put, Cracker Barrel ignored the obvious signs of decline. And this is what you get when Cracker Barrel goes woke, they go broke, and they treat its own history like an inconvenience instead of strength. Okay, so this is coming in from several different outlets. Here talks about it from NASDAQ.com, where the proxy firms backing Big Glory Capital, owned by Sardar Big Glory, would fight against the chain, as well as the fact that Big Glory is getting some help in the fight against Cracker Barrel. And then is also coming from other places talking about the proxy battle after this crazy year that the restaurant chain has actually underwent. Okay, so the November 20th vote will actually determine, whether or not, the people who caused this collapse will still get to run Cracker Barrel. Now, this is not complicated. You see, shareholders watched the rebrand blow up on impact, and the value destruction speaks for itself. Now, honestly, the company didn't change too slowly. It just changed badly. The market is pushing back harder every day, and the rebrand tossed out the heritage Cracker Barrel customers value. You see, the first was the old logo, which was just a distraction. That's familiar to the whole country store energy, gone in favor of a glossy brunch aesthetic that nobody associated with Cracker Barrel. Okay, like I said, that whole logo thing was a big distraction. Now the leadership just simply acted like, families were just begging for a completely different restaurant instead of expecting better execution of the one they loved. Now, when you swap comfort for trend chasing, you lose both audiences. I mean, that's how brand loyalty actually evaporates. Now, part of the failure was the belief that, slapping mimosas on the menu would suddenly bring in coastal crowds who were never coming anyway. Okay, so Cracker Barrel has always thrived because people knew what they were getting, which is comfort, predictability, and even genuine tradition. Now, the leadership treated that foundation like an obstacle instead of an asset. Now, diluting identity to go ahead and chase imaginary markets is how you confuse your base and repel the rest. Cracker Barrel learned that the hard way, and now the PR machine is working overtime against them. Cracker Barrel is now honoring veterans with free breakfast tomorrow on November 11th, and their foundation is donating $150,000 to veteran charities. Okay, so supporting veterans is the right call, and to some, it does deserve respect, but no one can miss the timing. A good deed doesn't erase the financial mess or the leadership choices that caused it. Okay, so yes, it's good that they're doing something for the veterans, but that's not going to go ahead and bring back the customers. Now, the market is not holding back either. Public market odds of the CEO staying dropped significantly today, which shows real time the loss of confidence. Okay, you see, when the numbers move like that, investors are not waiting to see what happens. They're acting now. Sentiment like this usually sets the tone going into a vote. Okay, so definitely the biggest warning sign came from proxy advisors, ISS, and Glass Lewis, urging shareholders to vote against Cracker Barrel board nominees. They cited long-term underperformance and a failed rebrand that created the stock. A drop of nearly 46% in a few months speak louder than any press release Cracker Barrel could write. Now, when half the value disappears, something fundamental went wrong. Now, outside analysis not kinder either. Creative Boom noticed that Cracker Barrel erased $100 million to $200 million in brand value the moment it revealed the rebrand. Okay, so that's just tanking cultural equity. A brand like Cracker Barrel carries emotions and memories that can't be swapped out with new colors and fonts. You remove that bad too suddenly, and the market reacts instantly, okay? But that wasn't the only issue with the logo. The food quality went down. The prices went up. Okay, and then to come find out that the way they prepare the food and stuff, that's what made people really not want to go back. Okay, so basically the financial fallout kept growing. You see, Cracker Barrel went from $99 million in net income to $40.9 million in 1 year. That collapse wasn't caused by, customers suddenly abandoning comfort food, but it came from a leadership strategy that pushed into regions that not interested in the identity of Cracker Barrel, while simultaneously stripping that identity from regions that loved it. Okay, so it was definitely a self-inflicted bullet wound. Now, the expansion westward made no sense, where people in those markets didn't want Cracker Barrel pretending to be something else, and the people who did want Cracker Barrel wanted exactly what the brand had always offered. Now, instead of targeted adjustments, they tried a national overhaul. That's the kind of move that turns a unique place into a bland, confused imitation of itself, okay? But this wasn't even a small mistake. It was a bad choice that belongs in the same conversation as the biggest branding disasters. New Coke, Schultz, Schlitz, the borderline comical attempts to reinvent legacy identities. They're failures of awareness, basically. When leadership treats heritage as disposable, customers respond by walking away. Okay, so whenever a company collapses this badly, defenders pop up insisting it was all part of the plan. Jaguar did the same thing when sales fell 97%. They blamed the transition as if empty lots and halted production were signs of strategic genius instead of clear evidence that the demand vanished. That same excuse was sitting in the wings for Cracker Barrel. People always find a way to defend decisions that don't deserve any defending, okay? So, entrepreneur laid out the fundamentals. Leadership chased its own taste instead of listening to the customers, okay? Brand equity beats trendy redesigns every time, especially for a business built on nostalgia. If you're going to change something, you need a purpose stronger than "we wanted it." So Cracker Barrel didn't have that clarity, and the result was definitely predictable, okay? So now everyone is watching to see whether the Cracker Barrel CEO survives the vote. Wall Street tends to avoid abrupt shakeups, and so she may keep her title, but the board seats flip, the agenda shifts with them. Now, a fractured board will stop at any attempt to revive the same failed strategy. Investors want stability and not another rebranding experiment. But here's the truth, though. Even if the CEO stays and the mission already failed, the backlash from Cracker Barrel customers neutralized the attempt to reinvent the brand, okay? So the stock punished the decisions of Cracker Barrel, and the PR scramble exposed how much pressure leadership is under. Now, Cracker Barrel didn't regain its identity because leadership chose to, but it happened because the market forced it to, okay? So the next year for Cracker Barrel depends on, whether this whole course correction is permanent or temporary. Now, if the CEO of Cracker Barrel stays and interprets recovery as a permission to try the same ideas again, the brand will slide right back into decline. If the board focuses on heritage, consistency, and authenticity, Cracker Barrel has a chance to rebuild trust. But what customers want is simple: a Cracker Barrel that feels like Cracker Barrel, not a West Coast brunch experiment pretending to be something that it's not. So let me know your thoughts about this in the comments below. Be sure to smash the like button, share the video far wide across social media. Subscribe to the channel, turn on the bell for future uploads notifications, and I'll see you on the next one. Until then, peace.